Welcome to the Real with Joseph Lamtman. I am Joseph Lamtman. Happy Monday. Hope you guys are having a good start to your week. Excited for this show today. Today's gonna be a great show, and I'm glad you guys joined again. If you haven't subscribed to the show, and hit the subscribe button down below. And but hope you guys are having a good start to your week. Happy Monday. Happy Browns Victory Monday still as well. That's always a good sign. And Ohio State won over the weekend how I thought they would. Kind of right here. You can see it. Go Bucks. They did what I thought they'd do to Wisconsin. So, looking forward to watching them the rest of the year. But we're going to start your week off today. Myself and my man Mike Antonace. Mike Antonace is going to be leading the show again today. This is something I want to do more of. You guys have heard me talk a lot about my topics that I've talked about with me, and you guys have heard me talk a lot on the show. So I kind of want to give people more of a platform to come on and talk about the things they want to share, topics that they're interested in or that they really intrigued in or studied, and so just give people a voice to come on and share how they think. And that's what I like to do, is get to learn people and learn from people. And I like to just get to know people more. And so today's topic for the show, though, by Mike, is evidence that God exists. And actually, let me clean that up real quick because that was spelled wrong by accident. Okay, now we're good to go. You gotta show the flaws sometimes, guys. I mess up sometimes. All right, that's part of it. Okay, but today's topic for today's show is evidence that God exists. And this is something Mike wants to really talk about. I think this really, how I know Mike and Mike's story, and his story's been shared on the show, obviously from the first episode when he came on, episode 10, all the way back in May. Mike at one point was basically an atheist, I guess you could say. And so, he's talking about that, or he's rebelled from God. He had a lot of problems in his life, like a lot of people. And I know a lot of people that have been there. And so I'm excited for this show today because I'm excited to where Mike's going to go with this. To hear, not only because of this topic in particular, but to hear someone that was on the other side and to where they are now, and have him, now he's like the teacher almost to people where he was. And so that's pretty cool. And that's kind of reminds me of what I've done with my journey with anxiety. I used to be on the other side of where a lot of people are. And now I'm able to get back and help those people and say, hey, man, I've been in your shoes. And that's, to me, what helps more than anything, is having people that have been in your shoes where you are, whatever you're going through, having them come and help you. Because they know exactly what you're going through. And literally everything, every detail, everything. And so, without further ado, I'm just going to stop talking and get the man himself up here. Mike.
How's it going?
Hope I introed that pretty well for you.
It looks great as always.
Even though I spelled exist wrong by accident, that's all good.
It happens. English is a hard language.
I was trying to hurry up earlier. I was on the phone with you and I punched it. I was trying to hurry up. I was saying, do this, I'd do that around the house, everything. But anywho. But what's most important today is the topic itself. And I'm just going to hand it off to you and let you go with it.
Alrighty. So today, what I'd like to talk about is evidence that God exists. The lucky thing as Christians is God doesn't, like, a lot of people nowadays especially like to think that, like, faith is blind. You always hear that faith is blind, like that old adage. But it's really not true. And your faith shouldn't be blind. And luckily, God has given us a lot of information and a lot of evidence that he is, in fact, real. And also, thanks to modern science, we have a lot of information that can point us to the fact that God exists scientifically. So today, I'm going to kind of cover briefly three forums or explanations for why God exists. We have the scientific, the philosophical, and historical. And first of all, I want to go over the scientific aspect. So the biggest thing that I found for the proof of God, or at least to kind of push you in the way of maybe the universe was designed to get you thinking, is something called the fine-tuning argument. And with the fine-tuning argument, thanks to modern science, we have found not only is Earth a perfect place for humans to exist and a perfect place for life to thrive, the universe itself is like, if it was moved a tenth, would not exist. It's pretty wild. So I'm going to bring up 3 examples. Forgive me if I don't speak too intellectually on them. I am not, in fact, a scientist. I am not, in fact, an astrophysicist. But I'm going to do my best.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So the first argument I looked up was essentially stars in the universe, especially within our solar system, give off a certain amount of carbon and a certain amount of oxygen. Carbon is the basis for life, obviously. Oxygen, also another basis for life. And that is what led to life being able to flourish on Earth. It was able to, we had a lot of carbon, a lot of oxygen, nitrogen, all that good stuff formed the atmosphere. We can breathe it. Life flourished, all that good stuff. The interesting part about that is so unlikely that the perfect amount of all of these elements would give off from these stars to form life, that if it was off a minuscule percentage, I believe it's 5%, if it was off 5%, life would not exist on Earth. And to top that off, protons, electrons, and neutrons, what make up all of the elements, basically everything around us, atomic structure, if protons didn't weigh what they did, protons weigh more than neutrons. There's no great explanation for why. But if they didn't, if the universe, for whatever reason, didn't have a positive, neutral, and negative atom, if one weighed just a minuscule amount more than the other, not only would the universe cease to exist, chemistry wouldn't exist. These elements that make up life, minerals, fuel, technology, everything, all the elements would not exist. We would cease to exist. And this all puzzles scientists to the upteenth tier, because when you look at the fine-tuning, all of these things that almost seem perfect, it would be like if I blew up a library and then all the pages are in the freaking air, and then for some reason they all just start to fall perfectly into J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, just perfectly. Or if I think there's another really popular analogy where it's like if you sat a monkey down at a typewriter and then he just started typing randomly and he managed to type all of William Shakespeare's works.
Right.
So it is that unlikely that all these things happen. And then Einstein comes around with the theory of relativity, which tells us about gravity, nuclear fission, all of that good stuff, and showed us that how much gravity has to do with how stars, the universe, all this stuff works. If gravity in the universe, the whole universe, not to mention our galaxy, was off a tenth, that is it. That is all it takes. 1/10. Galaxies wouldn't be able to form. The universe would be out of whack. So you look at these arguments and you even, learned men, learned astrophysicists, learned astronomers look at that and say, well, that's a little suspicious. It's hard to, you look at this whole picture, it's hard to, not be pushed towards design. It looks designed. When you look at it under a microscope, everything looks like it has a purpose to sustain life. It has a purpose to sustain itself. And it's very hard to kind of grasp, well, an explosion happened and we just got really, really, really lucky. So what scientists have come up with is 2 arguments against this. Well, maybe it's not designed. The biggest argument for against the fine-tuning argument, which it's not even really the fine-tuning argument, because these are all facts. If any of those things happened, the 10th moved, the universe would implode, we would all be dead, and everything, there would be nothing. What they came up with is, well, maybe just like there are billions and billions of galaxies, maybe there's an infinite number of universes with infinite number of possibilities within them. And we just happen to live in the universe where everything went right and life is able to exist. And we have planets and stars that do A, B, and C, and everything's perfect because just of infinite chance, law of probability. what that kind of breaks down to is, well, there's a paradoxical argument against that, especially when you put God in the equation, is that if there is an infinite number of universes, an infinite number of possibilities, then in one of those universes, a maximal being or God that is all powerful, all knowing, ever present, sovereign, all of that good stuff would have to exist in one of those universes. However, that creates a paradox, because if, in fact, he is a maximal being, he is a God, he is all-powerful, all-present, all-knowing, then he would have to exist in all universes because he's maximal.
Right, he's everywhere.
Exactly. So that's kind of shoots down, it creates that paradox where the multiverse theory just doesn't really kind of go against. And then another thing, and this is my favorite because Elon Musk kind of shot it into popularity, is that we're living in a simulation. We're living in a giant computer sim. That we're basically in a video game right now. Which, I mean, I guess if you want to get really pedantic with like how Christian theology works, I mean, it's sort of right. It's just like, if we're living in a simulation that we call life and God is the creator, I mean, you know, video games have developers, the computer was created by somebody. Like, I think that just kind of backs the theological argument even more. I don't know how that defeats the fine tuning or defeats the fact of a creator. So through that, that's kind of like the scientific basis that we have to go off on. For anybody watching, again, I'm not a scientist. There are much smarter men out there. I want to shout out a theologist who I've seen twice speak. He's an amazingly smart man. Great dude. His name's William Lane Craig. A lot of the information I got today, I got from his book. I believe it's called On Defense. It's a theological book where it's can really convict you, reaffirm your faith through a scientific modem, where you just, your faith doesn't have to be blind. And William Lane Craig really, really does shoot off on that. And he focuses on the fine-tuning argument. He focuses on a bunch of, sociological aspects, all that good stuff. The next argument I would like to bring. I
want to stop right there because you said a lot of incredible things here. And I can tell you definitely did your homework on it. Wow. I'm pretty impressed, Mike. You really impressed me there. But the biggest thing, in all seriousness, I took away, you said sustain, how things are able to sustain themselves. How, like you said there about the end, about faith. I'm just kind of throwing in like my experience, just kind of give a different little perspective for people out there.
Absolutely.
You said faith and sustain. And I think about that as someone, and you know this, as a health anxiety sufferer, right? And just think about when you worry about your health and you worry about, this is something my dad said this to me a long time ago, since I was a kid, and it always stuck with me. Just how incredible our bodies are made. How incredible, just how we're able to sustain. I mean, look around. A lot of the food and stuff we eat, it's air. It's not good food. Let's be honest. A lot of stuff we're eating is not really, and our bodies are able to keep going, are able to keep, and how our bodies are able to handle things that come in the atmosphere, things we encounter, things we are always able to get over it and get through. And especially if you really take care of yourself, you try to take care of yourself like you should. Treat your body as a temple, like it says.
Yeah.
But I use that all in saying, it goes with your argument, and I agree wholeheartedly, obviously, is just how God made our bodies, just how perfect we're made, how perfect, we're able to sustain and endure, and we can go days without water, we can go weeks without food. It's just crazy how people I know that can function without very little sleep for months. I mean, and really they don't really eat. They don't, just how we're able to sustain. And I know a lot of this because the people I talk to, what I've seen in the anxiety world, just what stress, the amount of stress we're under all the time, what it does to people, what to mentally, not just mentally, emotionally, spiritually, just the physical component as well. It was incredible.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that, I didn't even go into like the biological arguments for why God exists as far as like humanity is concerned, because there's a lot.
Right.
Maybe that's a topic for a different day, because biologically, yeah, we're coded like computers.
Well, I'm just kind of thinking like with some like scientists, like the science behind our bodies. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's kind of where I'm going because
exactly. That's what I'm saying. The biological arguments for how like we're wired and why that even pushes design even further. Like there's a bunch. Like we can't prove consciousness exists. Like you can't study it. Like your consciousness, what makes you you, a thought. We can't like
Your
we don't know
uniqueness of
where
your
thoughts come
spirit.
from. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
we can't really study it. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no scientific paper out there from neurologists that say that, hey, these neurons and electrical currents firing in your brain should form a poem or something like that. Like it's very hard to like study, and that's a whole different can of worms with like the human body and why we exist.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it kind of goes into what I'm going to talk about next, because I'm going to bring philosophy in here.
All right.
Now,
Cool.
take this with a grain of salt, folks, because philosophy is exactly what it is. It's philosophical. It's supposed to be big think topics, big think things. And the one I think I found most interesting is something called the ontological argument for God's existence. And it's very long. So the simplified version is, think of this. We can basically say, hey, the tallest man alive. You can say that sentence, the tallest man alive. Have you ever met the tallest man alive? No. But you know for a fact that there is someone out there that is, in fact, the tallest man alive. Might not have met him, might not have even seen a picture of him. But the fact that you can come up with that and say that, that is a fact. The ontological argument kind of goes off of that, is the fact that we can imagine a maximal being, a God, that we can say that an all-powerful being, well, he must exist. It's kind of like the old adage of, I think, therefore I am. Like the fact that we can say, oh yeah, God, he's the greatest being in existence, so therefore he must exist. Now, obviously, there are holes to this. Any philosophical argument will have holes
Right.
to it. But it is very interesting when you come down to it, because, I mean, a lot of science even is from that. You come up with a thought, like Einstein with relativity. It started on pen and paper, started as a thought, and then you put, proof to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more the philosophical argument. It's short and sweet, but I think it's an interesting way to look at it.
So it's more of just it's like you're saying, you never seen the tallest man alive, but you know it exists. You know it's
Exactly.
out there. You know there's somebody out there that's what I think. Who is it? Is it 8 feet? What is the exact height of it?
I think he was like 8'2".
I think it was like 8'2" or something like that. And yeah, I totally agree. And I think that argument as well could just like go back to what he said. The biggest thing, probably the biggest single word we can put for today is faith. you
Yeah.
know, and it's like I said. Do you have faith? That's why I brought that up earlier about your body and just all that. Because if you look at it like that, and how God's made you, and how God's made everything, like you said, how everything's perfectly designed, everything's to the exact, T where it needs to be, then where's your faith and trust should all be go into? It should go into the Lord, obviously. At least for
Right.
me. For some people out there, it's kind of like there's hesitancy. I think doubt, obviously, for a lot of people that doubt, but I think a lot of it too is just rebellion.
Okay.
And I guess this is kind of like maybe a little off topic a little bit, but it kind of goes all in hand when you're talking to who you're kind of talking towards today. And so, because you, like I said earlier, you've been there. You were there at one point in your life where you kind of were teetering away from it. And so I guess kind of how would you counter a lot of people that have doubt about a lot of things you've said?
It's healthy to have doubt. There's a lot of biblical figures even who's had doubts, and they had direct communication with God. Jesus even said, blessed are you because, you seeing this.
Mm-hmm.
But then Christ said, but blessed more are those who will believe and who have not seen. So, for people who are having doubts, I mean, there's so much information out there. Another one of my favorites, his name is Lee Strobel. He was an atheist journalist who wanted to basically prove that the story of the Bible was fake, that he wanted to prove once and for all. He wanted to be the guy to do it, to prove that the Bible was fake and God wasn't real. So Lee Strobel, sat down. I think he did this story for like 5 years. And the more he delved into it and the actual information, the actual history, the science of it, he actually became a Christian. And he wrote a very, very good book. It became a movie. I recommend the book. It's called A Case for Christ. And he also has a lot of videos on YouTube where he speaks on it. But there's information out there. If you have doubts, obviously, if you're coming from a atheist background where you're just trying to learn more, that's probably a great place to start. And if you want to take a step of faith and ask God for a sign, he's more than likely going to show you one. Or if you're coming from a Christian background, maybe look up some of the things I've been talking about so far, go into the Word, because that's kind of what we're going to go to next, is the historical argument, because through the scientific, the fine-tuning aspects, and there's so much more I didn't talk about, like the fact that we have a moral compass, and where does that come from, and the biological aspects. But if at this point it's like, okay, well, we have enough evidence to at least say God is real, then it kind of has to go to, well, how do we know which God is real? Which is a fair question for a lot of people who are skeptics, because there are a lot of religions out there, right?
Right.
So how do we figure out which God is real? And that comes down to the historical evidence. Which holy book has the most historical evidence? And I'm going to be going through a small tidbit. There's tons of information, papers out there, but I'm going to be covering one small sliver, and it's Psalm 22. So I'm just going to read through Psalm 22. I think I'm only going to go to, might have to read through the whole chapter. We'll see. All right, so Psalm 22. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? My God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer. By night, but I find no rest. Yet you are enthroned as the Holy One. You are the one Israel praises. In you our ancestors put their trust. They trusted, and you delivered them. To you they cried out and were saved. In you they trusted and were not put to shame. But I am a worm and not a man, scorned by everyone, despised by the people. All who see me mock me. They hurl insults, shaking their heads. He trusts in the Lord, they say. Let the Lord rescue him. Let him deliver him, since he delights in him. Yet you brought me out of the womb. You made me trust in you, even at my mother's breast. From birth I was cast on you. From my mother's womb you have been my God. Do not be far from me. For trouble is near, and there is no one to help. Many bulls surround me, strong bulls of Bashan encircle me, roaring lions that tear their prey open their mouths wide against me. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart has turned to wax, it has melted within me. My mouth is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. You lay me in the dust of death. Dogs surround me, a pack of villains encircles me. They pierce my hands and my feet. All my bones are on display. People stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garments. But you, Lord, do not be far from me. You are my strength. Come quickly to help me. Deliver me from the sword, my precious life, from the power of the dogs. Rescue me from the mouth of the lions. Save me from the horns of the wild oxen. I will declare your name to my people in the assembly. I will praise you. You who fear the Lord, praise him. All you descendants of Jacob, honor him. Revere him, all your descendants of Israel. For he has not despised or scorned the suffering of the afflicted one. He has not hidden his face from him, but he has listened to his cry for help. From you comes the themes of my praise in the great assembly. Before those who fear you, I will fulfill my vows. The poor will eat and be satisfied. Those who seek the Lord will praise him. May your hearts live forever. All the ends of the earth will remember and turn to the Lord, and all the families of the nations will bow down before him. For dominion belongs to the Lord, and he rules over the nations. All the rich of the earth will feast and worship. All who go down to the dust will kneel before him. Those who cannot keep themselves alive, posterity will serve him. Future generations will be told about the Lord. They will proclaim the righteousness, declaring to a people yet unborn, he has done it. So that's a lot right there.
31 verses.
Yeah, that's a lot. 31 verses, quite a lot. However, Ooh, it's starting to rain. Gotta close my window.
Yeah, it's lightning where I am too.
But so that was a lot, and what we can gather from that, especially from verses 17 through actually, yeah, 17 through 18, or I'm sorry, 16 through 18. Dogs surround me, a pack of villains encircles me. They pierce my hands and my feet. All my bones are on display. People stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garments. So essentially what you're getting here is a prophetic verse written in Psalm 22, describing very clearly what appears to be a crucifixion of the Messiah, because in the Old Testament we get two, oftentimes two prophecies of the Messiah, the suffering, and then he comes back as the reigning. Mm-hmm. So with this particular passage, that is the crucifixion, like down to a T. You know,
right. Yeah, it really describes I read this earlier before we came on, just to refresh my mind. Like, yeah, like you said, that one right there. I may tell all my bones. They look and they stare upon me. They part my garments.
They cast insults at him.
Yeah, they pierce my hands. I'm reading out of the King James. I think you read on the NIV, right?
And yeah, I know.
Yeah. So in the mind, they pierce my hands and my feet. And I read that earlier, and I remember we talked about that before we came on. I haven't read that exact Psalms, and I think a little bit because I'm reading further ahead in Psalms actually. But yeah, like exactly what you said there. Just that really describes the crucifixion. I even love too, verse 24. For he hath not despised nor abhorred the affliction of the afflicted, neither hath he hid his face from him. When he cried unto him, he heard. And it's like we were saying earlier, when you said, if you seek, you will find. If you ask God for guidance and direction, not only about him, but anything in life, you will find. Yeah. And you will be heard. Yeah,
and it's a beautiful thing that God gives us all this evidence, because down to a T, and this is for some of the skeptics, they might say, well, the Bible has been changed so many times from, when it was written to now, and, it's thousands of iterations, yada, yada, yada. I would point them in the direction to look up the Dead Sea Scrolls, because the Dead Sea Scrolls, we actually have a copy of this psalm within the Dead Sea Scrolls. And it is dated to the 3rd century BC. Mm-hmm. So 300 years before Christ would exist.
Right.
And we actually believe, archaeologists and historians believe that the psalm was written about 587 BC. But the earliest copy we have is 300 BC. Mm-hmm. So that breaks that argument down,
Right.
Bible wasn't changed. We know we have a copy of it from then. It's accurate as far as, minor punctuation things, but we can't read ancient Hebrew.
Right. No. And I think too, when you read all that, like the reason why I brought up verse 24 in particular is, even if you look ahead, if you look to chapter 23 right after that, and this is a verse that especially when I went through like some dark times with my anxiety, and I really felt on an island and lonely. This verse was something, it's something I always live by. It's Psalm 23:4. Ye though I walk to the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and thy staff, they comfort me.
Yeah.
And I mean, that verse right there alone, that's powerful. If you really sit and think about it, if you really let it soak into you, if you really absorb. And that's what I would challenge people, is really letting, give it a chance. Like, really ask and really believe. That's what I'm getting at. Do you really believe you will find?
Right.
You will see.
Or even if you're curious, God will show himself.
And if you're curious, and even this goes for like people like ourselves who are believers. I have things in my own life right now, things that you and I have talked about in private, about certain things, certain people, where I'm still seeking an answer from God. Like, I'm just curious. Like, is this something? Is there something here? You know what I mean? So
exactly. And it's a beautiful thing how much info God really gives us. And now, again, for skeptics, they might say there's another decent question that a lot of them raise to this point. Okay, well, we know that the prophecy more or less it came true with Christ. It came true with Christ. It did. We know that the text is accurate because we have a copy that is 300 years before the birth of Christ. They might say, well, in that case, then Christ, Jesus, and his disciples were just fulfilling the prophecy of their own accord to start the religion. Which I would say to those skeptics, well, that's an easy thing to say, true. And maybe one person would go to the lengths of that and die for that. But what are they gaining? What would, when you start something like a religion or a cult of your own accord, you usually gain something, right? You usually gain money, fame, power, women, whatever. However, what is Christ gaining if he were to just fulfill the prophecies just to fulfill them? He's gaining a horrible death. He's gaining a torturous death and crucifixion.
And when he's on the cross, forgive them for they don't know what they do. He still forgive, like,
right.
And I don't think people really understand that, like, or people forget about that. Is, there was thousands of angels ready to come down and take this planet out at that time, at that very moment. And he said, Father, forgive them for they don't know what they do. And they backed off. Right.
Exactly. And again, like with the evidence, Christ did a sacrifice for us. And also, if you're trying to create a religion that has no basis within, truth, generally when the religious leader is gone, in this case, for skeptics, that would be Christ, then you'd think his disciples, followers, etc., would also turn their backs. However, that's not the case. Not only were they stronger in their faith after the resurrection, most of them died a martyr. Peter, Christ's best friend in life, died crucified upside down. That's the one that comes to mind quickly. Peter is probably one of the most well-known figures in the Bible besides Christ. And horrible death. If it was true that this was just created and they were just fulfilling these prophecies for clout, then after Christ died and wasn't resurrected, as the skeptics would think, then truthfully, at least some of his disciples should have kind of turned away from, okay, well, fun's over. That's it, But that's not what happened. All these disciples continued to spread the word until their oftentimes horrible death. You have someone even in the New Testament, Paul, who was once Saul, who had a massive change of heart. When he was Saul, he was a murderer. He killed Christians. That was his job, was to hunt down and kill Christians. And something happened to him, and he started preaching the word and became God's best apostle, post-Christ, post-resurrection. So you have all of that information of these drastic character changes, and it's kind of just an amazing thing of like more circumstantial, situational evidence that we have for the proof of God. Right. Because if none of it was true, these people wouldn't have gone to their deaths, to imprisonment, to all of these other things. And also, there's one more fact associated with the resurrection that I want to bring up, because if I'm trying to sell a religion in ancient times, the resurrection is a very interesting topic, because within the resurrection, who finds Christ's body not in the tomb? Who finds the tomb empty? It's Mary Magdalene. Not only that is that important because, one, she's a woman. Ancient times, they didn't have any sort of social standing. They couldn't go anywhere without men. I'm trying to sell a religion to a bunch of people. Why would I make a woman the person to find the Son of God not in his tomb, and the first person to see the Son of God after he is risen? Not only was Mary Magdalene a woman, she was a former prostitute that, followed Jesus, believed in Jesus. But if I'm trying to sell a religion in ancient times, I don't write that story. Why wouldn't it be Peter that was the first person there? Why wouldn't it be James, Christ's half brother? Why wouldn't it be someone else, anyone else? If I'm trying to sell a religion in ancient times, that's not the way to do it. And that circumstantial story evidence and the fact that we have 4 separate accounts of it to make it a historical fact, because Mark, Luke, John, Matthew, all different people, all different gospels, all different accounts of what happened, but it's all the same with that.
Right.
Gives us a historical, it's a historical fact at that point. I think it's, if you have more than 3 written accounts, and we have more than 4, those are just the gospels, but there are third-party accounts of a Jewish historian whose name is escaping me, who's basically stating like, hey, Jesus is seen walking around 3 days later. What happened? I'm really confused, guys.
Right.
And he was a Jewish historian that, wasn't a follower of Christ, third party. And there are Roman accounts. And there's just so much historical evidence behind that it just doesn't make sense, the argument that Jesus would just be fulfilling these prophecies for kicks.
Right. And I think I like what you said too. I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
Oh, no, you're fine.
Oh, okay. Because you said a lot there.
I did say a lot. I went on a bit of a rant.
Which is great, because you're saying a lot of awesome things today. But I think the biggest thing I took away, though, from what you said in the last couple minutes was, in general, what you said there at the end there. Look at all the 4. We have all the evidence, all this evidence out there, right? And you say, okay, it's all right there, but there's still a lack of belief for some people. I don't think it's a lack of belief about God for some people. I think for a lot of people, it's a lack of belief in themselves. I think a lot of it's internal.
Right.
I think a lot of it's just rebellion. I think a lot of it's rage.
I think it's a lot of fear too.
Yeah,
fear is probably the biggest thing, because
I think they all kind of go together in a way. It's a fear of something. You fear, like insecurity almost. It's kind of.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree wholeheartedly. Not to cut you off, I just want to kind of add to your point with, eternity is, if you think about it in a certain way, eternity can be a scary thought. If you think about, like, a lot of people that I've noticed that are skeptics at first that go to God, they're like, well, I was just worried that I didn't have control over my life, or like I was worried that there was something greater than me that didn't like me, or I was worried that God is this man on a cloud, angry, shaking his fist down at us. The old adage of like, God's this old man who's always angry at us for all of our sins and all this other stuff. God gets upset at us, sure, but like, that's not how God is. He loves us, and he wants us to spend an eternity with him, and he sent his son down to die for us. So a lot of times I think it's just, whether it's the media's fault, whether it's bad circumstances in childhood, bad taste in their mouth from certain churches, where God is all hellfire and all this other stuff, where that's just not the case. Or maybe sometimes they really just, like I said, are just skeptics. They just don't think there's a lot of evidence out there. And so they get in this mindset where, well, God, this idea of a maximal being, this loving creator, seems such like a fantastical idea. I don't think it would be possible. So they never go looking for information. But like Lee Strobel, who I mentioned earlier, who wrote The Case for Christ, who was an atheist, once he started delving into the information and getting into the evidence of it, he became a Christian. So anybody who's a skeptic, again, just delve into the information. I've gone over a few really interesting things here. I think the historical, because I'm a history buff, that's where my favorite subject is. That's where I delve deep into, especially with yes, you have these stories in the Bible, but learn how to read those stories, learn why they're doing that. If you actually think about that, because like I said, if it weren't true, why would all of these different people continue to die for it? Why would they?
I think too, and I reason I'm kind of shifting this a little bit to that part where I was mentioning about insecurities, fear, doubt, your ego. It's because, okay, you believe. I think we've proved it's a lot of people. You've shown so much, and you keep, like you said there at the end, there's so much more you can go look into about the belief. But I think when you have the belief, comes the resistance. And I think that's the next phase, is that doubt, that resistance. For a lot of people, That's what holds them back. Even with I can use firsthand with anxiety as an example, because it's an example that a lot of people, it's something everybody goes through, just different degrees for certain people. But when you start to let go of those fears that change, any type of change, any type of, there's always resistance in some ways, and understanding what that resistance is. And it could be various things for a lot of people, I think. But the biggest thing I've learned about this recently in the anxiety world is about how your ego plays a huge part. And a lot of times we view ego as someone who's really selfish and wants everything for themselves, but your ego can actually be just your own self, your own personal being, your own soul, trying to. A lot of it's very can be involved with the flesh, and just really can keep you want to keep you in that state of safety, what feels comfortable. But I think people need to realize sometimes God will let you go be uncomfortable. And I was in that stage for a while. I know you were in that stage for a while.
Right.
He'll let you go through that to break through that resistance. But with all that being said, that's how you find your testimony. That's why I go back to verse 24 earlier in Psalm 22, where it says again, "For he hath not despised nor abhorred the affliction of the afflicted, neither hath he hid his face from him. When he cried unto him, he heard." What that verse is saying to you is, just because you're going through a hard time, or sometimes things happen we don't understand. We don't understand everything in the Bible. There's things in the Bible we don't understand. People ask, how did God, where did God start existing? Who created God? That's something we don't understand. But it's by faith and by your own testimony, your own works, by your own, like for me, through what I've gone through, you've gone through, and I've got to see knowing you the last couple of years, and just kind of when I first met you till now, and I know what you went through. It's through those trials and those tribulations. It doesn't mean you won't have them. That's what I'm trying to get people. Don't think.
And we'll still continue to have tribulations and doubts.
And that's what I'm getting at is the resistance. I'm trying to explain to people like, hey, this is where your belief you have to really believe deep down inside. And that what I'm getting at is, don't think those things, he doesn't just take those things away sometimes. Sometimes he'll walk with you through those things. And now through those things, he'll show you why he's God and why he is who he is and his purpose for you a lot of times as well.
Right. Oh, exactly. And that's the beautiful thing about him. He's not that angry guy in a cloud. He loves us. Mm-hmm. He wants us to, continue to learn about him, know him. And luckily, he's put people on the earth much smarter than me who can, kind of delve deeply into the information of the Bible. There's, again, I mentioned William Lane Craig. There's the Bible Project on YouTube. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. And that's more for believers who have, maybe they want to understand a book of the Bible that's kind of hard to read, like 1st or 2nd Kings or Numbers or something like that. Right. They really delve deep into it and go into the theology of it and what the book's about and why it serves a purpose within the Bible, which is a great, great thing. I'll never stop talking about the Bible Project. Such a great thing. There's John Lennox, he's a British, I believe he's a doctor in mathematics, also a theologian, and he speaks very intelligently about the Bible and, again, the evidence within it. But yeah, it's just the beautiful thing. God wants us to know him, wants us to know all about him. He gave us a whole book about him to kind of delve into.
To add on to your point there about different sources, I think I can just speak this from my own life, and I'm sure you can relate to this. Community, even just people. There's people around you that and I think I bring this up because I feel like one of the biggest things is the influence of people around you. Who do you hang around with? Who you listen to the most? What you consume? That really plays an effect on you. And sometimes it's not to mean it happens right away, but just over time, the more you allow people to influence around you, the people who are very out there and people that, there are some people out there, they're out doing things really bad and they accept it. They're just they don't have any conscience sometimes. And that's
right.
Unfortunate. But if you're someone out there that still has a conscience, and maybe you're doing some things, which is, I understand. All right, maybe you're doing some things wrong, you're struggling with some things, but there's still that part in you that knows, like, hey, there's still that little sliver of hope. There's that little, that little crease inside. I know you've been there, Mike.
Yeah.
It's very important. I bring this because I know you can relate to this, to have those well-influenced people around you. Like, really start to surround yourself more with people that that believe in the same thing you're trying to grow more in. For instance, your relationship with Christ, and just overall in general in your life, and just be open to those people. Like, really just, don't hide and consume who you want to be. I think that's the biggest thing in all things in life. For a lot of people, It holds a lot of people. That's the resistance. It's, what I mean? It's just, even, it doesn't matter if you're a believer or non-believer. Everybody's got that kind of doubt in themselves. I see it now, especially with people our age now. There's people my age that I know, they're believers that grew up in the church, went to school, Christian school, the whole thing, yada yada. And they got older, man, and some things happened to them, some circumstances. Maybe some people let them down. Things didn't work out the way they thought they would. They start to really doubt themselves. They start to really, and over time, when it starts to happen, is that you get pulled away from their faith more and more. And it's like a slow trap that the enemy uses on us. And I think that's why I bring that up. Really be aware what influences you and the people you're around. Not saying you don't have to hang out with people, but sometimes you got to set healthy boundaries with certain people and things.
Right.
Not just people, but things. Right. And we're all work in progress. Nobody's perfect. We got Mike and I could sit up here all day and talk about our flaws left and right. But really start to not only read and pray about it, but start to really do things that align with who you want to be.
Right.
And exactly. I feel like people don't show you how to do that nowadays. That's the problem. Because I think there's not enough people out there to do it. There's less and less people doing it. You know what I mean? There's not many people doing what you're doing today. That's why when I intro, I'm proud of you today, because where you were, and then how it's funny how you come back full circle years later. Look at what you're doing now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, God, we're, like I said, kind of a little bit in our last show, we're a 60+ year work in progress if we're lucky.
For sure.
So I and kind of to top things off, I hope everybody got something out of this. If you ever have any questions, be more than happy to answer any questions. Joe, same thing. I'm sure you'd love to answer any questions.
I'll link that stuff below, your Facebook and my stuff.
Yeah, and or at least at the very least, I can maybe point you to some resources you could check out for yourself. Because, like I said, I read a lot, I hear a lot, I listen to a lot, all that good stuff. Watch a lot, but at the end of the day, I'm not a theologian. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a historian.
Right.
But I tried my best.
Right.
So.
No, you did great, man. You did awesome today, and I really appreciate it. And I think, if you guys need to reach, Mike and I are just regular guys.
Yeah.
We go get up every day and go about our lives. But we would love to help you guys. This is a judgment-free zone over here with us. I mean, doesn't matter where you've been, what you've done. Yeah. We don't care.
I love talking to skeptics or people that just want more information, because that's the first step, really, is just being curious about God. And maybe you have that image of God as the angry man on the cloud, or as a judgmental God, or a God that is choosy, or something like that. And I love, giving people the evidence and telling people the actual scripture of God is none of those things. Sure, he'll get upset, and sure, he tests us, but at the end of the day, it's for betterment. And the end of the day, he loves us. And that's the biggest thing to remember. And for more, people who are more wanting just the intellectual side, okay, well, I want to know that, I want to have a firm idea or a firm argument that God exists. I love talking to those people too, and that's kind of why I brought this topic up, because it's there is a lot of evidence, and there's so much more that we didn't discuss, that I didn't bring up. And this is just one prophecy for the historical evidence, but there's legitimately hundreds more in this book that they all came true, that I could point out. And I know we have a lot of copies within the Dead Sea Scrolls. It wasn't a complete Bible, I don't think, when they found it, but it was near complete. And then there were other like books of the Bible we have copies of that are old, but Dead Sea Scrolls, I think, was near complete. I think like 95%. I can't remember the exact percentage. Love to go see them. I think they're still at the British Museum because, you know, Britain, they love to just take stuff and just put it in their museums. They love doing that, man.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. And I think, yeah, I mean, a lot of great things you said today, a lot of things. I mean, and like I said, here I had a flaw already today. I expelled Existrol by accident.
Yeah.
And I just realized this ticker at the bottom, the ticker at the bottom was still the same way the whole time. I was like, oh, dang it.
Yeah.
That's what a hurry I was earlier. But anywho, it happens. But still great content today. That's most important. And I really appreciate you sharing this. And I think the last thing I would say is, you know, we talk about seek and you will find, belief, everything. I think one thing that I think, and maybe we'll have to do a show on this about faith in particular, is expecting things. Like, I don't think that's talked about as much anymore. Like, and that really goes along with belief. Like, really believe and expect that you will get what you desire and the needs, and you expect God will supply all your needs because He will.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that, sometimes things don't go maybe at a certain timing we want or a certain way we want it to, or moments. I can attest to that firsthand. You know, there's a lot of things I wanted 8 years ago when I went into high school, and it's been a complete 180 since. But I'm starting to understand now why it happened, what I'm able to do from here going forward, who I am now, you know. And I think that's the big thing is really just expect that, have that belief in yourself, expect yourself to get to the goals and the dreams and the things you desire, to be who you want to be. Because with God, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you.
Exactly. Yeah, I got that on my arm until I die.
Yeah, there you go. Look at it every day. It's so.
Well, I guess I'll have it a little bit longer after that, but what is the word? Oh my God, decomposing process. Yeah.
Yeah, today's not. This has been a great grammar day for.
Yeah, I can't think of words.
I can't think of words.
I thought of the words up until this point, so it's all good.
Well, it's all good. Okay, the message is good. That's all that matters. But before we get out of here, you got what's your? I got to ask you, what's your book of the week?
My book of the week. Let me just get it on up here. Because I want to read. I don't know if I'm going to finish it in time. Because usually when October hits, I only read horror books. But I'm reading Neuromancer by William Gibson. It is a cyberpunk book because I've been really into that style of fiction. If you guys don't know what cyberpunk fiction is, it's like futuristic dystopia, like corporations have taken over and like humans modify themselves with a bunch of like cybernetic implants, and it's really, really cool. Neon, like Blade Runner kind of aesthetic is what cyberpunk is. And this is one of the best books about it. Really interesting, really, really cool characters. There's basically about a thief in this matrix. And then they cripple this dude's nervous system, and he's like stuck in cyberspace, and he has to find a way out of it. It's really, really cool. So William Gibson, Neuromancer, is the book of the week, and I recommend it. Hopefully I can finish it before October hits so I can read nothing but horror books for a month.
No, you told me, if you wouldn't mind real quick, if you got a couple minutes, because I didn't know this till you came over from my house back in July that night. You told me about how you grew up around haunted houses, if I'm not mistaken, because we're heading into that month. Could you explain kind of that whole story? You explained too, I didn't notice how Ohio is like number one.
Yeah, we have the most haunted attractions in the United States of America. I think the PA is probably the closest, but we have like 25 more than them, and it's always growing. We have 125 haunted attractions across the state of Ohio. Fun fact, also, most of the famous horror movies were based in Ohio. Nightmare on Elm Street is set in Ohio, as well as Friday the 13th is set in Ohio. But yeah, I mean, Ohio,
Wow.
we love our spookums for some
Yeah.
reason.
Feel like being
Um,
scared, I guess.
yeah, we love it, and I love it. I mean, I like you said, I grew up around a haunted house. My father was the chairman of the Hudson JCs, and before him, my grandfather was, and my grandmother worked the ticket booth until she legitimately physically couldn't anymore.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, no, the I grew up around Hudson Haunted House, which shout out to them, go to them. It's still all for charity. It's a
Mm.
nice haunted house, small one. It's inexpensive to get in, and not only do they have a great just haunted attraction to get into the Halloween season. They always have like grilling going. They have a day where it's I think it's called Lights On Day or something like that. It's during the day, and you can bring your kids, your little toddlers, within their costumes, and they can go through the haunted house with all the lights on, and all the monsters in their costumes will give you candy, and it's always a great time. I hope they're still doing that. I hope I'm not shouting out something that they don't do anymore, but
Well, you may get
I
there.
think
You
they
may
still
get there.
do.
They're not even doing it.
Yeah, I think they still do. I
Like
don't
Mike
see why they
said
wouldn't.
so. It's all Mike's fault. He sent us here.
Yeah, but I'd still look. I mean, even if they don't do that, it's still such a great program, and it still has
Mm.
such a warm place in my heart. It's not the most elaborate haunted house. I mean, around here we have Factory of Terror, Schoolhouse and Lab in Akron is insane now. Like they have a whole bar that you can just hang out in between the houses and like drink these spooky themed drinks.
Yeah, I
Um,
gotta memorate that place. Oh boy.
Yeah,
It's just
it's
yeah.
changed so much. You can do axe throwing there now. It's insane. Like all the stuff they do there. It
Mm.
after Factory of Terror bought them, like the quality went from like it was already good, but it went to like upteenth tier. I mean, we have 7 Floors of Hell, which is good every year. Um, what other ones do I go to? Carnival of Horrors is okay. It's not my favorite. It's all right.
I just I like how we went from our conversation today, and we're now talking about the 7 floors of hell.
Yeah, I mean, here I like scary things. It's the thrill. Um, But yeah, no, I mean, definitely Hudson Haunted House. It still has a warm place in my heart. Kind of what I was getting at is it's not
Yeah.
the best out there. The costumes, that might be a little dated in the rooms, but they do their utmost to make it such a great experience, and it's a great place to go and just support charity and get into the Halloween spirit. But yeah, go to Hudson Haunted House. Seriously, just they're open. I think they might be opening next week or this
Yeah.
weekend. Actually,
Yeah,
might
I
be
got
opening.
at the school laboratory. I got a experience there. That was actually the last time I went to a haunted house years ago. I
We
never
got to
went.
take you to one this year,
I never
Joseph.
really went to a whole lot growing up. I just wasn't into it as much. But I might go. If you go, I might go with you just to have fun. But
Yeah, you got to come. I'm gonna
I
get.
I just laugh now. But but back then though, I went one time with a group real quick. My buddy Zach was on the show. His dad John, who was my coach, grew up. Like love John, but John likes to have fun. He can get a little crazy, and he like into joke with people. And he was sneaking ahead of us and like grabbing people's ankles and jumping out on
Oh
us. And
God, that's
yeah,
kind
it
of
was
frowned
fun.
upon.
Yeah, he was even scaring some of the workers too.
Oh
But
jeez.
yeah, that. And I remember there was this one part you came around. This guy was like in this cage with like a chainsaw, like right in your face, and it's just like comes out of nowhere and just starts banging on. He gets right up in your face. And my friend Devo was like, he was always bigger and taller than everybody. He was defensive line with the plate Cincinnati, and he was sitting there. He was more scared than all of us, and he was the biggest one there. And he got so scared. I remember that part there. He fell right on top of me, and he wouldn't get up. He was just laying on the ground like,
Oh,
like
dude.
just yelling. I'm like, Dill, get up, go, 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 go.
I might see if I can actually get involved this year because there's really nothing more cathartic than scaring the shit out of people. Pardon my French. I know this is a spiritual discussion earlier, but it's so much fun to just, especially when I was a kid. I still remember it so like the first day my dad surprised me and he's like, "We're gonna dress you up and you're gonna scare people." I was like 5 or 6 and got dressed up as a bloody butcher uniform, all that stuff, did all my makeup. Fun fact, most of the fake blood is corn syrup, and that is sticky, and it's so hard to get off of you. So I could hide behind everything that no one else could, and I was popping out and scaring everybody, making everybody jump. I had so much fun doing that as a kid. But yeah, dude, I love haunted houses. I don't know why. Well, obviously I know why. I grew up with it, but October, spooky season, the fall. It's my favorite time of year. I'm glad it's here. Football is in full swing too. Love that. But
hoodie season. I can wear my hoodies.
What was that?
I said it's hoodie season. I can wear my hoodies.
Yeah, I can wear my jean jacket.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, I got one story real quick before we. So I took our buddy Corey to his first haunted house he'd been to in a while, years ago, like 2 years ago, I think. And like your dad was like, I can't believe you got him to go, because he didn't like it. You know, he actually was a trooper at first, you know, and then we get to this part where we get to this part, and let's give you a background. Our buddy here is
go up the screen, sir, because
you're okay.
I didn't. You got that? He was gonna have me cussing.
Oh yeah, no. There's this one part. I think his girlfriend was with us. It was a little double date, but we got to this part in the lab where it's pitch black, and they only have like small glow in the dark arrows to kind of show you where to go. And then at one certain part, like there's a really sharp turn, but the point is you're supposed to like the arrow kind of like moves you into a dead end, and then you have to find the turn. But like I hit the dead end, and he just starts flipping out. He's like, "What? Yo, we're stuck in here. We're stuck in here. What's going on?" And he starts pushing me and pushing the pile. And I'm like, "Chill. It's okay."
Oh yeah, I just hear Corey in haunted house in my mind just immediately.
Oh, it was a great time. It was a fun time. I would hear. Maybe he'll come with us. That would be great.
I don't know, man. I don't know. He might have traumatized him that day. He might not go back again.
Wasn't that bad? I think we stopped for a beer in the break point. I hope we did. That usually helps.
Yeah, just drink it away.
Yeah. I think at one point it was Mike Myers the dude dressed up as Mike Myers was serving all the drinks, and he just sat there or stood there and just stared, didn't say a word. And he would open up the beer cans or make the mixed drink or whatever, and then for the money he would just point at the screen and show you the amount. Just true to character, just like, here's your like just points. Awesome,
man. I need to see. You know what? If we take Corey back to haunted house, that needs to go on YouTube. We need like somebody falling around. Dude, that's why when you told me that, I was like, because we know Corey. Anybody knows Corey knows if you get him in a haunted house, that is like a miracle.
I still don't know how I managed to like persuade him. I was just like, oh, it's just one. It's fine, dude. It's an easy one. I think that's what I told him. I was like, it's not that bad a one. And really, I hadn't been to schoolhouse and lab for a long time, so I think I was telling the truth. And then I got there and I was like, oh, it's different now. It's like, it's way different.
Yeah. It's great. No, I mean, it's great. What he does though, when he sells cars, he's a savage when he sells cars. I mean, he's an absolute animal. But he has his fears like I have mine. So it's all good, Corey. We're just messing with you. But
love you, Corey.
Love you, Corey. But we are beating your Falcons this week. All right.
Oh, no chance. Yeah, start the Vince McMahon music. No chance.
No chance. All right, no chance. Yeah, we're beating your Falcons this week, though, dude.
Yeah, it's gonna be like 31-7. Drake London gets one touchdown. That's it.
Well, you're saying a big blowout, then.
No, in truth, it'll probably be like. I mean, the Falcons can score. It might be like a 30-21 game, 30-24, something like that. The Falcons, I think, are a better team than what people are giving them credit for, honestly.
I'm going to say 34-20.
Because their defense isn't great, but their run defense is good. So we're going to need Amari to work because they're the worst passing defense in the league right now.
We need somebody else to step up. That's what we need. Just maybe Peoples-Jones go off.
Yeah, I mean, here, from Amari Cooper, I mean, yeah, you can do your best to guard him, but it's at the end of the day.
No, I agree. But
Amari Cooper.
Teams eventually are going to start, put more on him. I think we got to have somebody else really become that definitive number 2. I think a lot of
David Njoku.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm talking about from the receiver room. I think
right.
From the receiver room, we need somebody to really. That's only been 3 games, but dude, they're averaging I think 28 a game, which is really impressive.
Yeah, technically, our offense, and this is real, is the Well, technically, we're the third seed in the AFC right now because of points and defense and everything. I looked that up. That's real, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, third? Like, I was like, I thought we were gonna be sorry with Jacoby. Everybody was saying that Jacoby, we should have kept Baker until Deshaun comes back. Baker's the 33rd worst quarterback right now in QBR and yards. 33rd. There are 32 teams in the
Yeah, I mean, Jacoby's running offense like it's never been ran.
Yeah, but, and they love him too.
Yeah, everybody loves him. I love him. He's great and good dude.
Oh, great dude.
Yeah, but man, a lot of stuff today, man. He did a lot of great things. Yeah, maybe we'll have to go. I don't know, maybe a haunted house one day. But I need to see Corey in this again. I need to get. I'm telling Corey he's going to a haunted house. I'm a pay.
Yeah, maybe we could go to Hudson Haunted House. Easy one.
I don't drink, so I won't be able to drink it away. So yeah. I'll have to. I'll use my breathing techniques. But no.
Yeah.
But no.
And last for tonight, while we're on football, who you got tonight?
You asked me this earlier. I think I'm gonna go to the Giants. I'm just gonna go with the home team. I don't know why. I'm just gonna go with the home team.
I agree. Brian Dable's been coaching a great game. He's making Danny Dimes look serviceable, which is a lot. So yeah, I'd say
they spent a lot of money last year too on their weapons. Remember that?
Oh yeah,
going into last year, they spent a lot of money.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a defensive battle at the end of the day, though. I mean, you can't let Micah Parsons ruin you, which he very well has the ability to do. And then New York, I mean, with Azeez Ojulari and, Kayvon Thibodeau, I mean, their defensive front is crazy good.
Yeah.
I really liked – I was talking about in last year's draft, I really liked Azeez Ojulari. I wanted the Browns to go after him. Mm-hmm. And just like
it's funny, it's great. I think that year, if you go back to 2021 draft, because you were at my house for that draft.
Yeah.
I think I was gonna say, I think the Giants won that draft. If you go back and look at their picks, like just the accumulation of picks and players. They were up at the top, I remember. One of the better ones.
They drafted well late. I really didn't like that Kadarius Toney pick. I still don't like it.
Well, I was about to say that's the one pick. I'm not saying they won the draft because trying to think. Not saying they won the draft, but when you look at the accumulation, a lot of the players they had, really the offseason, just a lot of young talent with where they're heading. You're starting to see it prevail now. I think you're seeing that now too with that was the reason why I say that with Jacksonville. Look at Jacksonville now. All of a sudden, they're starting to come along. But again, that's a lot of the accumulation, all the young talent.
Yeah.
Well, I think eventually
accumulation of Doug Peterson being your coach instead of Urban Meyer.
Right, I'm just saying you're seeing now too, like in the NFL, just how fast you can rebuild in other sports. I think in any other sport. And then,
all you gotta do is reset the wide receiver market, hire a new coach. Just reset the whole wide receiver market. Pay Christian Kirk $18 million a year.
I think a lot of that's like with the Browns formula. They started back years ago.
Oh yeah, we don't care. We pay anybody whatever.
Well, no, I'm saying accumulation of picks.
Oh yeah,
just draft young talent, and
draft well.
Draft well, and I think that's the Giants have drafted well. I think Jaguars have drafted well. I think the Jets eventually will take the lead. I think the Jets have drafted well.
Jets, barring Zach Wilson being good, I think
that's the only thing that holds it. Yeah. Exactly. Just like the Giants, the only thing is with Tony. Tony has a talent, he just can't stay healthy.
Right. I mean, their offense outside of Saquon Barkley is pitiful, honestly. But I mean, their O-line, they've addressed that in the draft. They just need to. I mean, Kenny Galladay's probably the worst contract in the NFL at this point. Yeah. He's been a huge disappointment. Sterling Shepard is good in spurts, but he's hurt a lot.
He's good in spurts. Yeah.
Kadarius Toney is. I didn't understand that pick when it happened. I was like,
oh, I mean, like when I go, like
that's like if we picked Anthony Schwartz in the first.
Yeah, they've drafted offensive line well, and they drafted defense well. That's really what I was getting at.
Yeah,
which is important.
But who knows?
I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know either.
I hope that they don't do too well though, because they need a new quarterback.
I'm not sure about Zach Wilson. I mean, we got to see more of Zach Wilson. I think Trevor Lawrence is the man for sure.
Oh, Trevor Lawrence. I knew that. I mean, he's great.
He's great. He's starting to play like the number one pick.
Yeah,
But
and their receiving room ain't terrible. Zay Jones has been his guy. You got a good veteran presence in Marvin.
well, yeah, they paid Kirk 54 mil.
Yeah,
And
Christian Kirk looked good, and picked him up off of waivers because I don't know how, but my boy James Robinson just
oh yeah,
scored, getting me 22 points in fantasy. Oh,
what's his name?
best.
Devontae Smith was on my team yesterday.
Oh, lucky. I dropped him for James Robinson.
You dropped Devontae Smith for James Robinson?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I had too many receivers, and I was like, well, I can either, because at the end of the day, Devontae Smith still isn't the one. So, like, he's not going to get as many targets as A.J. Brown. So my thought process was like, well, I know they run a committee, or they try to, in Jacksonville, but at the end of the day, I still think James Robinson is going to get more touches and touchdowns. And then I was like, because my receiving room is pretty good. I have Diggs, Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson, and then some guys. But like,
You still should keep Devontae on there.
yeah, I should have dropped Treylon Burks, but I thought he was gonna.
Oh, you kept Treylon Burks over Devontae?
I did keep Treylon Burks.
Oh hell no!
It's okay. I'm helping my best friend go 0-3. He picked up Devontae in a shell to try and make it work.
He might have won yesterday.
Yeah,
I looked at my phone at halftime. I did have 33 points.
But my running back room is so good, it doesn't matter. I got Dalvin Cook, A.J. Dillon, James Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard.
I got a pretty good running back room myself.
My running back room is going to lead me. And my quarterback's Lamar Jackson. So
I got Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones.
50 points a game.
I got Henry, Aaron Jones, Zeke. I have who else? I have Kenneth Walker. I drafted him. I think he's going to get more touches the year to go on. I got Melvin Gordon.
Oh, okay. I loved Kenneth Walker coming out of the draft. Loved him.
How many teams is your league, though?
I think 10.
Yeah, ours is 12.
10 or it might be 12. I think it's 10 though.
Yeah, because I noticed a drop in running backs this year. Once you get later in the rounds, there was kind of a drop. I made sure I got mine early, but
yeah, I was like Christian McCaffrey was good for whoever in my league. I can't remember, but someone got Nick Chubb in the second, and I was like, oh,
that's a steal.
Dude, this year he's going to be the rushing leader.
Right, best running back in football, in my opinion.
But, he is by far. But
and he's going to the second round in some leagues. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's gross. I was just like, damn.
There was some people took Najee Harris over him in leagues.
Well, I mean,
notice Najee's a great player, but he ain't Nick Chubb. I mean, come on.
No, I mean the talent's not there, but I could see the reasoning behind taking Najee. I get the
receptions and all that, but. Listen,
and also, like, who else? What else?
If a guy averages 5 yards or more a carry, you better take him in the first round.
Yeah,
he's a home run hitter. You just take him. You just take him and just leave him.
Yeah,
he's untouchable.
Yeah, somebody just picked up Amari Cooper too off of waivers after the first back-to-back 100-yard games from any Browns receiver.
Yeah, you guys got a lot of good receivers on waivers. Damn, not in our league.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the numbers Amari's been putting up. It's like, oh wow, Jacoby Brissett and Amari Cooper are doing what we wanted Baker and Odell to do for 4 years. Like, jeez.
All right, man. I appreciate you coming on today. And then we kind of rambled there at the end with all
kinds
of haunted houses and football, like we always do.
Haunted houses and football is fall.
Give you guys a little something different on the way out. But hope you guys leave a comment below or like hit one of us up. Going back to our main topic today. We would love to help you guys or talk to you guys or anything.
Absolutely.
So about anything. And our past episodes we've done together about anxiety. And we've done a lot about a lot of things. So just overall life in general. And you got anything you want to say on the way out?
No, that's about it.
All right, cool. I appreciate it, bro. I'll see you in the next one.
Appreciate you. See you in the next one. Later.
Guys, later. All right, I want to thank Mike for coming on again, like always. Really always enjoy talking to Mike. I'm allowing him to do more of these, like let him choose a topic of the show and lead the show. And obviously today's topic was a very important topic because I think it's the biggest thing for a lot of people that don't believe in God. And, guys, hopefully, like Mike said, we all the evidence he gave today, just different, just a lot of the things he said today. There was a lot there, and just where the conversation went. And I hope we helped you guys out in a lot of ways, give you guys some resources. Like I said there at the end, feel free to hit us up. We would love to talk to you guys if you have any questions. And um, never be ashamed to. And that's what I'll leave you guys with is, no matter where you are, what you're doing, what you're going through, don't ever be ashamed to be who you are, and don't ever be ashamed to speak up, and don't ever feel like you can't reach your goals. I know that's a down place for a lot of people. I've been there. When I was 17, 8 years old, I got in a low point in my life. I feel like I never thought I'd leave. At that point in time, I couldn't leave my house for like a year and a half. I explained this before. And there was a point in time for a short time where I got really low, where I really thought that was my life, the rest of my life. That this is who I am. It will never change, and that uh, you know this is my life. This is what my life will be. Never going further away from this house, and I had a lot of doubt and a lot of fear. Um, but then as time went on, I was always saved. I really started to pray more about it, and I started to really let go of it and give it to God more, and just allow Him to show me over time, and He did, and He still is. And like I said earlier, there's still things in my life now that there's certain, whether it's something or someone, or maybe I don't have the answers about, or I'm still curious. That's just part of having faith and letting go and trust and allowing Him to work. You never know what God's doing behind the scenes. You never know what God's molding. A lot of times people get too impatient, they jump the gun too soon, and you can do things too early where it's not ready yet. God's timing's perfect. God knows what to bring, who to bring, what to do, and what to allow at the right time, at the right place and time in your life. And that's where you have to trust and believe and expect. Like I said earlier, you have to expect that you get a lot that you ask, excuse me, seek and you will find. You expect to find what you want, what God, God will supply your answers and your needs. And so, yeah, let's keep with that hopeful mindset and, expect and keep praying, and we'll all do this together. Like I said, we're all here together. We can all help each other. And, yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. Like, subscribe, share. Make sure you go check out my last episode. There's the post game Mike and I did for the Browns. If you haven't seen that, go check out the one before that, though, the day before. I react to an anxiety guy video. If you're somebody struggling with anxiety and panic, definitely go check that out. That's a very powerful video that he did, and I responded to it and gave some points from my perspective and my experience. Go check that out. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. Like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. And I appreciate you guys. See you guys next time. Down.